Well, good morning, everyone. It is Monday, February 19th, 2024. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. I did email each of you this morning today's agenda and also an alert that we will not have our daily Zoom tomorrow. We're going to be working with one of our branches who's also an attorney, and he is helping us to review the compliance aspect of our branches, which we typically do on a monthly basis. So no Zoom tomorrow. We'll resume Wednesday. However, today we have a very important, valuable topic that we're going to go through. And the first element of our conversation today is we want to address you in a different light, in a different aspect. Each of you have decided to become a branch office. And by doing so, you are the owner of a branch office. You are the CEO. And so we really want to approach in theory and strategy that this is a CEO roundtable. So Andrew, you are the CEO of your branch, and we're glad that you're here. So you're not just looking at this as just transactional. You're able to stand back and look at the strategy. You're looking at the P&L, the profit and loss of your branch, and really holding us accountable to help you maximize your profitability. The same with you, Bernard and David and Eric and Erica and Jeanette and Jenny and John and so many of you. We have 520 this morning, which is great. That's a higher number than average. So you are each the CEO of your branch, Chief Executive Officer. And if you're not acting like that and thinking like that, you're missing out, because your branch should be generating at least $100,000 a month. And if you do that, multiply that times 12, your business is $1 million a year business. It should be. And if it's not, there's something wrong, and we need to work together to fix that. So the point, as I'm sharing on the screen here, is we're going to start having CEO roundtables. That's the context of our daily Zooms going forward. Now, a few of you are not branches. You're here considering it, which is fine. You're welcome to join us anytime. We're very transparent. If you should ever decide to open your own branch office and be the CEO of your own branch, then of course we can implement as well. So as the CEO of any business, whether you run Tesla or Microsoft or Walmart or any business, what's the most important thing that you do as the CEO of a business is you manage profitability. Now, you might have other staff that have specific responsibilities, but it rests on you. You are the CEO of your branch. And if your branch is not profitable, we need to fix it, because we have tremendous market opportunity. We have a unique product to take to the marketplace. So all of those external factors, those stars are aligned. If your branch is not profitable, then we need to put our heads together and fix it, right? Otherwise, you'd need to replace yourself. So when you run a branch, we know that our main offering to the marketplace is the startup program. And of course, on chapmanloanprogram.org, that's where all the details are. But with the startup program, you know, as the CEO of your branch, that you anticipate getting paid 4 times per client. And that's important to know, right? If you're managing the P&L, the profitability of your branch, you've got to keep your eyes on the dollars. So there are 4 times that you're paid as a branch. Now, some of you do other things, like we have Terrence, who's a CPA. He gets paid additional times because he offers other services. There's Eric and Veronica. They sell insurance, so they get paid additional times. There's Richard, who runs a chamber of commerce. He gets paid additional time. So some of you get paid more than 4 times, but even if you don't have any other offerings that you make available to clients through the startup program as the CEO of your branch, you should be paid 4 times. First, you're paid when the client enrolls. Now, you decide from the client, are you going to collect $2,500 up front or just a $500 down payment? That's between you and them. The client's getting the same services. It's not a different offering. It's just how is the payment. If they're only paying $500 down, then they have to pay the rest later, or they can pay the full $2,500. That is up to you and them. And they pay who? They pay the branch. That money is directly deposited to you on a daily basis. Now, most clients want to receive a first tranche of financing. What does that mean? And we've had separate trainings on this, of course. And you can always go to Business Paralegal on YouTube and view past trainings. But first tranche financing is when you bring a client into the startup program. Let's go ahead and get them a first tranche of funding right away, like some working capital based upon their baseline qualifications. So when we do first tranche financing, we're able to get them offers with no hard inquiries. The typical client will get 6 to 8 offers. The amount of first tranche financing that they'll receive will vary based upon their mitigating circumstances. It's rarely over 100,000. It's almost always under 100,000. But from that, you can be paid a performance fee. So let's just walk through an example. We have Jenny on. So let's say that Jenny brings on a client and the client pays her either $2,500 or $5,000 when the client enrolls. And then very quickly, we're going to help that client, Jenny's client, get first tranche financing. Let's say that client gets, we'll just do even numbers, 100,000 of first tranche financing. That usually funds very quickly, fast. So that's even before we built a fundable business, right? So this is initial funding. Well, Jenny, as the CEO of her branch, decided what is the performance fee that each of her clients owes her for capital raise. Let's say Jenny does the normal and does 20%. So if that client raised 100,000, client owes Jenny 20,000. So then Jenny's making in around 7 days an extra 20,000. Well, that's a whole lot more than what she made on the front end, but this is the second round of money that Jenny has made off that client. Jenny will be paid a third time if the client only paid the 500 at the time of enrollment. Because when clients pay 500, we're setting up financing. We use a program called Sweet Pay. And so Jenny still gets paid, but Jenny doesn't get paid for 30 days because that's when the Sweet Pay model pays out. So that's this. This would not exist if the client paid up front. Hopefully that makes sense. It's either or, not both. Then what do? We build a fundable business. I mean, that's what we do. That's what you and I take to the marketplace is we help entrepreneurs have fundable businesses. That's our value proposition. Well, why would they want that? Well, they may just desire funding, right? A lot of clients will come to you and just say, no, just get me funding. Just get me business funding. But if their business isn't fundable, it doesn't qualify, then there is no business funding. Therefore, they enroll in the startup program, and then we go through the steps, which you're probably very familiar with, and then they qualify for business funding. Well, here now, Jenny gets another performance fee from that same client. Let's say the client at this time raises 200,000, just a nice round number. Well, if Jenny's performance fee is 20%, as we talked about a moment ago, now Jenny has received another 40,000. So the entire amount of funding that each of you as the CEO of your branch receives is based upon the client circumstances, the amount of funding, and your contract you have with them, because each of you determine what your performance fee is. We're going to say just on average, we would anticipate your branch makes around $25,000 per client. So this isn't get rich quick. This isn't like winning the lottery, but it's a good side gig, right? For most of you, this is a side income, not your primary income. Obviously, volume. So what are the key variables that impacts the profitability of your branch, which is the focus, should be your focus as CEO? Well, it's going to be based upon what's your performance fee going to be, and then also volume of clients. Those are probably the two key variables. And so most branches have now adopted a standardized approach of having a goal of one new client per day, 30 a month. Now, there'll be some good days where you enroll 2 or 3 or 4. Some days you don't enroll any. But most of the branches, and this is not a requirement, most of the branches set a goal of one deal a day. And that's pretty easy to measure, right? Because you get up in the morning and you're at 0. And when you wrap up your day's work, it's pretty easy to assess. Did I enroll a client today? Did I get a deposit in my account, meaning your account as a branch, of $500 or $2,500? It's real simple to know that. As soon as you start backing down a more conservative goal of, well, once in a while I want to enroll a client, then it's just not as easy to assimilate and focus on. But a deal a day is real easy to get your arms around. So that's what most branches do. Again, it's up to you. It's your business, right? You are the CEO of your branch. You're responsible for its profitability, and you can either follow the norm or you can do something different. It's up to you. Now, of course, all branch CEOs know that there's a minimum, right? So let's have this a bit more interactive for a moment. So we're going to use the Q&A, the question and answer function of Zoom. How many clients must a branch enroll per month to remain compliant? So I'd like each of you to respond. It's not a deal a day. How many per month must you enroll after a 30-day grace period for your branch to be compliant? So looking for all of you to take a moment and put that in. So Andrew, what is the number per month? How many per month? Bernard, when you enrolled as a branch, what'd you commit to doing per month? David, what'd you promise per month? Doug, what did your agreement say that you would do per month? Erica, I'm looking for all of you to respond because I think there's some positive benefit of having you involved. John, what did you promise to do when you enrolled per month? Karen, Kenya, Larry, Marilyn, Pauline, Pearlie, Reginald. All right, so it was 8 a month. 8 a month was what each of you promised to do, 2 a week on average. Well, why is that number? Why should there even be a number there? Because this is what we know, is that if you're not actively involved, you probably won't be very good at what you do. And your clients deserve to be able to work with individuals, with branches, with CEOs of branches that know what they're doing, that are actively involved. It makes no sense for us to have dabblers. And I guess I'll try to think of an example. What would be an example? We'll even do law school. So if you apply to law school, there are part-time programs. Most are full-time, but there are some part-time programs. But if it's ABA accredited, meaning credible, and even if you're part-time, you've got to take a lot of classes. Typically it's 9 credit hours, because you can't just dabble and say, well, I'll take a class now in law school and maybe 2 classes next semester. Same with medical school. Most professions require active engagement, because otherwise you're really not that competent or confident, most likely. So this isn't meant to be a penalty, but we're looking to work with CEOs of branches who are actively engaged. the end result are some very lucrative results, and obviously we're generating results for clients. So that's our preface. Now, with the startup program, we've had other product trainings on that, and so you're probably familiar with it. Again, we have the recordings of the trainings up on the YouTube channel. But the bottom line is most small businesses want to need capital. Not all. It would not be accurate to say, oh, every business wants funding. That's not true. But it is true that most do. And furthermore, most have a problem. They are not fundable. They do not meet the underwriting criteria to get approved. So there's a problem that they have that you and I have a solution for that works 100% of the time. Right? As most of us learned back in middle school, when it comes to funding, it comes down to the 3 C's: credit, collateral, and capacity. And that's frankly what we do through the startup program is we create businesses that have the 3 C's. So the startup program works 100% of the time. There's no risk to the client. We will create a fundable business. So our goal today isn't to do training on the startup program, but you can certainly get product knowledge by going to the website, looking at our recordings on the YouTube channel. But I can't plead with you enough. Please schedule our weekly one-on-one sessions, because that allows us to review where we're at. What do we need to do better? What assistance do you need? What's the status of all your clients, and so forth. So I don't know how to further request that. All right, so now our main topic today is, in fact, managing the sales process. So we spent 17 minutes getting to this point. But Avery Steinberg is one of our branches. He's an attorney, and he's the one that I spoke to yesterday, I referenced this morning. And his quote is, "Only a fool ignores the sales process. Follow the money." So money is made from sales, which in your and my world means enrolling clients in the startup program. As we talked about, there's multiple rounds of funding that you could receive, should be around $25,000 per client. So not get rich quick, not too good to be true. But if you're doing this on average twice a week over a course of a month, it's a good side income. So with that being said, we need to have an effective sales process. Sales is kind of interesting. To some people, sales is a dirty word. Like sales, that just doesn't sound good. Or I'm above sales. I shouldn't sell. But there's no business that can exist, that can succeed without sales and profitability. No matter if you're a hospital, a clinic, it doesn't matter. Every organization has to have sales, or you'll fail. You'll quit. You'll go out of business. And again, we all know that we should be doing at least 2 a week to stay active, to stay fresh, to stay current, to stay compliant. So with that being said, the sales process, I think we need to think of it differently. And that's really the point today. I would like you to stop thinking about sales as one word and instead divide it into 3 separate activities. And so when you're thinking about how is your branch doing, how profitable is your branch, the profitability is the result of these 3 separate, distinct activities. So one is generating leads. We'll come back and talk about these, of course. The second is getting those leads into the funnel. And then the third is closing, enrolling the clients. So I was talking to Veronica over the weekend, and she's one of our top branches, and she's building a big sales team, and I think has close to 10 sales professionals on her team. But I was just emphasizing this to her as well. I think it's rare that you as the CEO are going to find someone that's really good at all three things. Usually that's not the case. And so I think that's often a problem, is that when you're trying to generate sales, you're trying to generate profitability for your branch, you're trying to find one person to help you do all three things. And in many cases, one person won't have competencies across the board. So let's break it down. So the first thing that we need is a lead. A lead is a prospective participant. In other words, either an entrepreneur or a wannabe future entrepreneur that wants money to start or grow a business. So we have to have a lead or nothing else can happen. So we can advertise, we can go out and teach, we can get referrals from accountants and bankers and attorneys. But lead generation is the start of the sales process. And of course, we can buy leads, if I mentioned that or not. But we have to have a lead. If we don't have a lead, then 2 and 3 will never occur. So you could stop and look at your branch and say, is my lead, in other words, is your lead generation effective? Because if you don't have leads, then you won't have profit, because we don't have sales, because we don't have transactions. So really be thoughtful and look at your lead generation system in your branch. You're the CEO. Effective, or I guess constructively pause after today's webinar and really think about, are you good at finding leads? And if not, we must fix that, because nothing else is going to happen to drive profitability if you can't master step number 1. And it doesn't mean that you have to be the guy or the gal that goes and does it, but not by any means. As the CEO of a business, you can outsource that, you can delegate that, but you can't forget that. You can't eliminate that. That's a recipe for failure. Now, of course, our goal is to enroll clients. We'll call that closing. And we're just using plain out sales terms. We're not cleaning it up to make it feel more nonprofit or more client driven. We're just having a heart-to-heart discussion amongst friends about the sales process. So ultimately, we need to close, because if we close, then we have streams of income coming in that should total around $25,000. But there's this middle step that we've missed, is what do we do once we have a lead? So some of you, I don't think, are that good at handling the leads, because you can get a lead, and certainly we all want them to enroll, but what has to happen between those 2 points? We need to connect with the lead and pre-qualify them. Now, in our world, it's great, because we don't restrict or pre-qualify or rule out people based upon their income or their credit. In other words, there's no minimum credit, there's no minimum income. We're not saying no to people on those arbitrary factors, but they do need to have they should want money to start or grow a business, and they should have at least $500, because broke people will eat up your time. Broke people often are high maintenance. They'll burn up your time. Just not a good decision to spend a lot of time with broke people, because no matter how good of a salesperson you are, if they don't have $500, they're never going to enroll. So be careful about broke people. So someone somehow needs to take these leads and then determine, are they pre-qualified? Which again was pretty simple, right? Do you want money to start or grow a business? And do you have at least $500? So in the most sophisticated sales model, as a branch CEO, you might even have 3 different parties involved. You might have one person or one team that's generating the leads. You might have one person or one team that's setting appointments, and then you have your closers. Now, it's okay to do all 3 things. That's fine, and that's simpler. But I think a common mistake is trying to find one person that can do all three of those things well, because in many cases, some people will have a skill set at generating leads, but they may not be very successful at closing. And frankly, it's true for you as an individual. I mean, you could force your way through it and do all three steps, but I think in most cases, outsourcing the lead generation is the way to go unless you have a steady stream. So let's talk about a couple of the resources. Now, these are resources that we talked about on training last week. We had individualized training sessions on each of these. So I'll go over these in brief, but this is not the introduction or the full discussion. So bullet number one, if you want to outsource the first step, which is lead generation, there are companies that will provide you leads. Now, will they do it for free? Probably not, right? Because what company does things for free? They have to make money just like you need to make money. But we had a training where we talked about Lead Tycoon. They'll provide you leads, so they'll take care of number one and feed you leads steadily on a daily basis. Bullet number two, we talked about Home Business Lead Center. So there's lots of organizations that have the ability, the proficiency, the expertise to provide you leads. So if your business, your branch, as the CEO of your branch, if you don't have plenty of leads, that's a huge problem that needs to be addressed before you worry about anything else, because with no leads, we'll never have profitability. And a lot of you, I'll talk to you and I'll ask, well, how does your funnel look? I'll ask about your lead funnel. And so often it's like 2 or 3 names that I'm hearing back. And I've joked about this before, but it's actually painfully true. Well, I've got my ex-wife, I've got my brother-in-law, and I got a guy down the hall. Well, that is not an adequate lead pool to be running $1 million branch. We need a lot more leads. Now, those might be 3 fine leads, but our business model isn't about finding friends and relatives that want to sign up. And that's fine if you do, but that's not the gist of what we do. So I think we really want to consider, if you don't have a good lead flow, outsource it. Outsource it. Now, also in the third bullet here, there's companies like Synergy Direct Solution, and we highlighted them last week. I think it was Friday, but I'm not sure. But they'll do actually the first 2 steps. So they'll go generate the leads. They have what's called a virtual assistant program, and they'll set up appointments for those leads that they generate for your closer. Most likely, you're the closer. Most likely, you're best at closing. You don't have to be. You don't have to be, but that's probably where you come into play. So if you could just spend your time talking to people that have already been found and already pre-qualified, then you're in a great position. Now, again, if you don't want to be the closer, you can have someone else. But in the beginning, it may be you that needs to be the closer. So the point is, there are resources that can help you with any of these. And in fact, you could outsource the whole stream if you want. But you can't ignore it. You can't run a business without being profitable. And some of you are not running profitable branches. So it comes down to these 3 things. The beauty of the startup program is that our team will handle the client implementation. So no longer do you need to be proficient in doing all the work with the client. If you go out and bring in the clients, our team will do all the work. We do all the work. You just need to be proficient either internally or externally with these 3 steps. So a couple of you have asked, how to get plugged in, and chapmanloanprogram.org is our website. You can go on there, and under grant resources, the bottom link under grant resources is to enroll. It's called the Opportunity Fund. But that's not my point right now. Just since I could see that, I wanted to bring it up. I want to take a moment, and I'd like each of you to do a self-assessment. On a 1 to 10 scale, 10 is the highest. I think it's time for you to grade yourself. as of today, as of this morning, how competent are you on the 3 steps in the sales process, right? They're up here: lead generation, appointment setting, closing. So I'd like you to each text 3 numbers in one text or in one posting of Q&A. Give me 3 numbers. What's your number on lead generation? What's your number on appointment setting? And what's your number on closing? So Marilyn, you sent me 5. That didn't make sense. So there's got to be 3 numbers because there's 3 parts. That's one of the most important things I'm trying to convey to you, is that the sales process isn't one step, it's 3 steps. So I need you to grade yourself on those 3. So Marilyn did great. She said 10 on lead generation, 6 on appointment setting, but a 1 on closing, and that's fine. That's good self-reflection to understand. So each of you should respond with 1 posting in the Q&A, 3 numbers, just like Marilyn did. Bernard, you did it wrong. Richard, you did it wrong. Some of you are giving me 1 number, and that shows I'm not successful, not you. But the sales process is composed of 3 elements, and that's what we're trying to convey today. So, and we don't have to be perfect. Well, none of us are perfect. But for any of you that are saying, like Marilyn, you're saying you're really good at lead generation. Well, then the natural follow-up question would be, well, how many leads do you have in your funnel right now, Marilyn? Because if you're really, really good at generating leads, you must have dozens or hundreds of leads right now because you've been around quite a while, right? And then I know number 2 can kind of blend a bit, but the third, then it's probably pretty easy for you to assess of the conversations that you're having with individuals, what percent of them are enrolling. And maybe you say, well, if you're 10 out of 10 on closings, that means 100% of people that you talk to close. If you're a 9 out of 10, that means 9 out of 10 close. So that would be a good way to easily evaluate your closing skills. Marilyn's using Data Axle. A number of you, and we talked about it last week, are using Data Axle to get pretty much unlimited leads. You can get unlimited leads of whatever criteria you want: home-based businesses, established businesses, bad credit businesses, so forth. So you're right, Marilyn. No one should struggle to get leads because we've talked about resources, including some that are free, to be able to get unlimited leads. If you don't have leads, your branch is going to fail, and I'm failing you because I need to be making sure you know that you can get unlimited leads, right? So we've got to be crystal clear on that. Look at your sales funnel, however you're managing it, and if you don't have lots of leads, we must fix it. We must fix it. You will not be profitable if you don't have a big flow of leads. And there's no reason you can't fix it, right? We've talked, I don't know why this is staying highlighted here. It's being hard to get along with. But the bottom line is we've talked about where you can go get leads. There's no reason that every branch doesn't have a plate running over, as they say, of leads. But if you don't have lots of leads, nothing else is going to work. We've got to have lots of leads. There's lots of small businesses that want and need capital. There's a lot of people that are thinking about starting a business that need money to get it started. There shouldn't be a shortage of leads. If you don't have lots of leads, you must fix it. You must fix it or it won't work. This won't work. You're going to fail. Now, if you need help with closing, we can talk about that differently. But if nothing else today, take away from the fact the following. You are the CEO of your branch. You're responsible for running it. You're smart, you're motivated, you have a program, a product, a solution that a lot of people need. Secondly, we need to look at the sales process of having 3 steps to it. And it's okay that if you're not excellent at all things, do what you're good at and outsource everything else. Richard's asking, well, how do you outsource closing? Well, you can go on to Fiverr or what is it called? Upwork, is that right? Where you can hire gig workers. So you can outsource the closing if you need it. If you're not good at closing and you realize that, either you need to get better at closing, choice 1. Choice 2 would be to outsource it, or choice 3, we're going to have to generate that many more leads because you're just not going to convert very many of them. But it starts with leads. It starts with leads. If you don't have lots of leads, then we're in trouble. We are in absolute trouble. But there's no reason to not have leads. Lots of resources for leads. All right, so again, we will not meet tomorrow and Tuesday. We'll be back on Wednesday. What I would ask each of you to do is to consider fixing what's broken in your branch. Look at your branch as a business, which it is. You're the CEO. Make sure that you have competency and effectiveness in this 3-step process of generating profitability. And if not, fix it. And the easiest to fix is the lead generation. And we've been talking about resources for several days now. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Feel free to reach out to us. Our phone number and emails on chapmanloanprogram.org. We should be having weekly one-on-ones. We'll see you back Wednesday morning. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.